Hi everyone, it's so great to be in front of you today. I'm very excited for today's topic and it's a bit different. As you probably used to, a lot of the videos on my channel revolve around a book where I mainly discuss the ideas from a book that I've read that I've really enjoyed. And whilst some of the stuff I'm going to be talking about today will be used from some books, that won't be the main theme of today's video. Today I'm going to be speaking about goal setting and the importance of goal setting in a way you maybe haven't heard yet. I think that we get a whole bunch of self help books out there, self development tools out there, and sometimes it doesn't really go into the detail or give you an understanding of goal setting, even though you probably hear it again and again. Why have goals? How to set goals? And why is it something that just pops up or crops up again and again? What's the importance of goals? And how can you achieve goals that you set? I think that the importance of goals lies in the fact that it provides you direction and clarity on where you want to go. See, not having goals just means that you're still moving forward, you still have habits, they're aimed towards something. It just might not be something that you actually want. Whereas when you have goals, you can put that energy that you're already using and let it be focused towards something that you do want. And so the concept of goals and having goals is really empowering because it allows you to take your dreams and transform them into tangible steps that you can take to achieve what you really want. And there's a quote that I want to share. It's by Benjamin Mays. He says, "The tragedy of life doesn't lie in not reaching your goal. The tragedy lies in having no goals to reach." I really like that. I think that captures all that I'm trying to get across quite well in one sentence. And I just want to put it out there that goals isn't just boring about creating a list or spreadsheet. It's about making a roadmap towards things that you really deeply, truly desire. So the first thing we'll do is discuss why goal setting actually matters. We'll look into some psychology behind it and motivation and why this term goals or goal setting crops up again and again. It matters, it's important for you. I'll guide you through the process of defining your goals and prompting you to actually be able to craft something that is a goal that's aligned with what you really want. Then we'll just have a look at some ways you can assess your current standing in regards to that goal. It's really good to get a good idea of where you're currently at in regards to a goal before you get started. We'll look into the power of habits and why they're so important, and they really are the foundation to you achieving your goal. Also look into some visualization or understanding why it's important to kind of think about where you want to be, what your ideal is. And you can call it, if manifestation is something that you're interested in, you'll probably enjoy some of that. But basically, it is just visualizing success. And then lastly, we'll brainstorm some diverse ways of how you can get from where you are to where you want to be with a lens of experimentation rather than pressure of trying to get it right on the first try. And then it's vital that you do land on some actual realistic action steps to move forward and to also see how you can celebrate your progress along the way. So let's get started on why goals. Why do I need to have goals? Well, there's a lot of research out there that people who set goals are more likely to be successful and experience more life satisfaction. Goals provide us direction for where our efforts should go. And it increases motivation by giving us something to strive for. And I think the easiest way I can say this is if you're just running for the sake of running, you're probably not going to get anywhere fast or that far. However, if you're running for a time goal, for a distance goal, then you have something to work toward. There's something pushing you there. Try run for no reason at all, and then try run for a goal that's maybe aligned with something that you're capable of and see the difference. Goals give us a sense of purpose and clarity, and these are vital just to keep us going. I also think an important part of goals is if you're not clear about your goals and what you really want, you are going to inevitably start living according to other people's goals and what they want. I'm not saying it's wrong to help people. I think it's a beautiful thing to help people. And in fact, that's some people's goals, as long as that's something that you intentionally chose. So now I want you to think about what kind of goal you might want in your life. So you might already have a goal that's coming into your mind. Often, when I coach people, there's usually something they've been wanting to work on or work toward for some time. So, if there's that thing that has been popping up, write it down. What other kind of goals have you heard of? Have you come across, have crossed your mind that sound exciting to you, that sound like something you want to achieve? What would you want more of in your life right now? An example could be more fitness. An example could be more health. An example could be more energy. An example could be more peace. There's loads of it. It could be just like that, or it could be more money. Is there a goal you once pursued and didn't achieve that you might want to revisit? Is something new you've been eager to try and make progress on? Whatever it is, just think about it and write it down and just reflect on it for some time and see if you can construct some kind of goal from the answers to those questions. I think it's important to take note of these answers and just to think about anything that's coming to mind right now. Next, we'll delve into the crucial step of assessing where you're currently at in regards to your goal. So, if you did think about the previous questions and the answers to them, you may have landed on a couple goals. I think it's really great, and there is some research out there that working on 3 goals at a time is quite optimal. So, if you have loads, see if you can narrow it down to 3. And if you have less than 3, that's okay too, even if you just have 1. What you want to do now, you can pick one of your goals and then repeat this for all of them, is assess where you're currently at with this situation or this goal. The reason why you want to do this is because it's really helpful to have an accurate understanding of where you're working from before you work towards anything. So, for example, if we're using a golden thread, I was speaking about running earlier. If you have a goal of wanting to run a half marathon, you need to assess where you currently stand in regards to running. So, I don't know, you could assess, okay, how often do you run every week? That answer might be once a week. Okay, for how long do you run? For how far do you run? Assessing those kind of things. You could also assess things like, how does it feel when you run? How is your breathing? You could also assess your strengths. So what are some things that help you with your running? Maybe you cross train and you strengthen your legs, and that's really good. What are your weaknesses when it comes to running? Maybe you struggle with your breathing a bit. Maybe your nutrition isn't the best. The point of this step is just to see where you are and use what you already have, just to take note of where you're working from and just to have a realistic expectation. Because let's say you are wanting to save let's say you want to save a load of money, right? And you just jump into saving it and you can't understand. You're not saving this amount that you set, right? And then that might be because you didn't do the step of assessing where you're currently at. Probably a good way of assessing where you're currently at in terms of saving money would to be just what you spend your money on. Just taking stock before you change anything, before you jump into action mode, just assessing what you spend money on before you start that step of saving, because it's likely you're going to think you're saving and then you're not going to see the rewards and then you're going to give up. So if you took this extra step and you maybe took note of what you were spending your money on, you might notice, oh my goodness, I spend money on coffee every single day this week. That drains my money and I just don't realize it because it's such a habit. With the running example, if you just jumped into running and you try to run 10 kilometers and the furthest you've ever run is 3 kilometers, you might injure yourself, you might get hurt, you might not understand that maybe you need to sort out your nutrition a little bit. There's a number of things that could crop up. So this step is really, really vital. Next, I just want to discuss the profound impact of habits, because they really are the foundation of your goals. They're the things that are going to do the work unconsciously. If you have good habits in place, they'll keep you going even when you don't feel like it. And trust me, motivation is fleeting. There's going to be a whole lot more days that you're not going to feel like working on your goal, then there will be days where you do feel like it. So, having your habits in place and having good habits in place are really going to be the difference between you achieving your goal and not. And some of us have great habits and some of us have detrimental habits. Most of the time, we have a little bit of a mix of both. So, just in this part of assessing where you're at in terms of your goal, look at your current habits and how they may or may not impact your goal. There's a lot of ways you can do this. I know James Clear in Atomic Habits, he suggests you write down how you spend your day. You put an equal sign on all the things that you need to do that don't really impact your goal. And then you put a plus sign on the things that impact your goal and a minus sign that impact your goal. I've obviously taken this and adapted it for this context, but I did do a video on Atomic Habits, so you're welcome to go and check that out if you would like. The point of checking your habits is just to see what are you doing currently that might be helping you and what are you doing currently that might be hindering you. So if you looked at your habits, let's say your goal of running a half marathon, you might assess your habits and see, wow, you already have a pretty good training routine in place. You exercise every day for 30 minutes. That's really good habit that you can build on and leverage in your goal of running a half marathon. If we look at more habits that hinder you, you might find that your sleeping routine is terrible. Every night before bed, you kind of jump onto series or social media and you just scroll and watch until it's 2 a.m. and you have to get up at 5 and you're just not feeling good at all. That is going to hinder your running because you need energy and you need a good night's sleep to perform well, especially on the day where you want to run your half marathon. So really taking a good, honest, without judgment, I'm such an advocate to not judge yourself, just to look at your habits and consider which ones may assist you in your goal and which ones don't. And I know that it's more than often that the bad habits are comfortable, they offer you some kind of mental bump or reward. And I just really urge you to think about the long-term potential of replacing a bad habit with a good one. It's uncomfortable in the beginning, but it pays off. So a good way to get started on this is just to notice that most habits have cues. Most bad habits especially have something that make you think of doing that. So I know like scrolling on social media is an easy one. You see your phone, you think of all the things that are on your phone, and Instagram and TikTok are right there, so you pick it up and you scroll. So that's a cue. You see it, you think about it, you pick it up, you do it. So you kind of want to disturb that cue as much as you can. If you're going to bed and you see your phone and your laptop and you are encouraged to scroll and watch until you can't sleep, then maybe put it in another room, maybe turn your devices off, whatever it is, disrupt that cue so that you aren't encouraged to take part in that bad habit. I think also an important part of this is that it's really hard to get rid of a bad habit and just leave that space empty. We just like filling our time. So it doesn't mean that now you put your phone away and your laptop away and now you just need to lie there and stare at the roof. Think about another way that would be beneficial to getting good sleep, but it's still a way that you might enjoy spending your time before you go to bed. So make your nighttime routine. If you never get time to stretch, there's your time to stretch. If you never get time to have a good skincare routine, there's your time. If you never get time to read, there's your time. There's just a few ideas of how you can fill the space that a bad or negative habit leaves with some more positive actions. These things may or may not actually support your goal of running better. I guess your ability to sleep better does, but these other things even add to your life in other ways. So as you think about this, I urge you to note or think about at least one bad habit that you have and what you might be able to replace it with. Next, as we progress from assessing our current situation, it's vital to stay connected to your aspiration, to where you want to be. Because people who stay connected to the end product, and this comes from also it's been said in different ways, but it makes me think of Stephen Covey's begin with the end in mind. So this is just another way of saying that, and it's another way of saying manifestation. It's nothing that magical. It's just that when you are connected with your end goal or where you would like to be, it creates an emotional response that keeps you going. It keeps you connected to your purpose and why you're doing this. And it also attracts opportunities and support. Because if you constantly think about where you want to be and what your ideal is, you're going to be more observant of things that are in line with what you want, because that's the way our brain works. If you keep thinking pink elephant, pink elephant, pink elephant, you're going to picture a pink elephant. Our brain just has a way of seeking out things that are top of mind. It's going to notice the things that we think about. So if you often think about your goal and where you'd like to be, you might be more observant of people who have already achieved that, people who are also working towards that, or even ways of getting there, because your brain ultimately does like to solve things for you. So using the example of the half marathon, let's say you create a statement that you read often, like, I am completing a half marathon with purpose and joy. If you repeat that statement, that's a way of doing it. Alternatively, you could have a picture of somebody running or crossing a finish line. That's how you can begin with the end in mind, and put the statement or picture somewhere where you look at often, or if you do have a meditation or a video that you watch that's in line with your goal, then make sure to do it every morning or pretty regularly so you can stay connected to what you want to achieve. This is helpful because, again, much like habits, this is going to help you on the days where you're struggling a bit more and you need a reminder of why you're actually doing this. It reinforces dedication and commitment. And it's also inspiring. If you can make sure that you choose a statement and a picture or a video or meditation that's actually inspiring to you, it's going to make you feel good. It's going to make you work harder. Now that you know where you're at and where you'd like to be, it's a great opportunity to brainstorm some strategies to get you from A to B. And I want you to just imagine that this is a judgment-free brainstorming zone between you and you. Now you have your goal and you have where you are. You're going to brainstorm a number of ways that could get you from where you are to there. And just let the brain run free. Let the creativity run wild. Don't stop yourself. If you're able to brainstorm a number of strategies without boundaries, kind of just seeing what comes to you, you'd be really surprised. And as well, it just gives you an element of flexibility and resilience to be able to achieve your goal without being hindered by, this is the best way to do it and the only way to do it. So let's consider the goal of running a half marathon. When you're brainstorming, you might sit down and think about all the ways that you could get to this goal of running a half marathon. You could buy a book about running. You could hire a coach about running. You could join a running club. You could call up that one friend that you remember ran a half marathon or a full marathon and ask them some advice. You could watch some YouTube videos. You could get a course. I'm sure there's a course on it somewhere. Do you see how I've named so many? And odds are, if you just sit down and you view this as a free brainstorming session just to let the mind run wild, you'd be surprised what you would come up with, and just write it all down. Just let it all go. Now's not the time to kind of stop yourself. And I think a lot of us fall short when we feel the first thing we think about we have to land on and it has to be perfect and it has to work out. No. See what works for you and have options, and just let that resourcefulness come through. Then after you've had this brainstorming session, try to land on 1 to 3 of the most feasible actions that feel the most doable for you, given your resources, energy, time, and everything that we looked at in the beginning when we assessed our current standing in regards to this goal. Just rolling with this example of running a half marathon, maybe the habits you land on are joining a running group, picking up a running book and reading it, and adding extra exercises into the routine that are specific for running and good for running. Use the 2-minute rule, especially for daunting goals. So if you want to get started with running It's a lot easier to say, okay, all I have to do today is run for 2 minutes. It's a lot easier than saying you have to go run for an hour if you haven't really run that much before. So definitely in your first week or your first couple of times trying, use the 2 minute rule. There's no shame in it, because guess what? You're getting started. You're one step closer. So do that habit or that behavior that's going to get you closer to your goal for at least 2 minutes. And remember that consistency is key. It's way, way, way more important to be consistent in working towards your goal than to just burn out in the first week or two. Something else that can help you with this, also coming from James Clear, is habit stacking. This is just pairing two habits together, one that's already in place and another one that can just add to it. So let's say we had those idea of the mobility exercises for the legs, right? Let's say you have a habit of brushing your teeth, and you know when you brush your teeth, you're kind of just standing there waiting for it to be done. Well, you could easily add in a simple mobility exercise like sitting down and standing up with one leg. That's pretty good for running. You could easily habit stack those two things. As I mentioned in the beginning, let's say I told you my current situation was that I already exercise 30 minutes every day. Okay, that's already a habit. Wonderful. Let's habit stack that. Let's do 30 minutes of my usual exercise and add a 2 minute run if we're using the 2 minute rule, and that can turn into a 5 minute run and then it will build. It's rather seamless when you do it this way. You also want to make these positive actions or habits attractive by linking them to some sort of reward. So if you hate stretching because it's so boring, watch your favorite series or YouTube video whilst you stretch. If you find that reading is just terrible, tell yourself that once you read 5 pages, you can go make yourself your favorite hot beverage. This is a great way of actually enjoying the process, not just doing it. And yeah, it's really good for your mental health. I really want to emphasize the importance of being able to measure your goal, because when you're able to measure your progress, it keeps you on track. It shows you how far you've come and what more you need to get. It's not just about having a goal, but seeing how far you are to your goal and when you've actually reached your goal. Like, do you know when you're going to reach your goal? Obviously, something like being able to run a half marathon, the measure is pretty inherent, right? You can just measure your kilometers as they get up, and then eventually it's going to be race day and you'll be able to run the half marathon. But not all goals are like that. In fact, most of the goals that I've worked with my coachees are far less measurable than that. So just think about some ways that you can make your goals measurable, because it's so vital that you can look back on how far you've come. So for things that are a little bit more abstract and harder to measure, you can always just literally tick off days on a calendar for how often you do the positive habits or behaviors. You could keep a habit tracker. You could do reflections every day or every week, just seeing where you're at, how you're doing. And you could also kind of assess yourself out of 10 on a regular basis, or ask for feedback from others. The important part of measuring your progress too is that maybe you get to a point where you're plateauing and you need to adjust your strategies, and that's okay. Maybe you need to switch out some habits for some new fresh ones. Maybe you're getting bored. This is the beauty of checking where you're at so that you can adjust, and it doesn't mean that everything you've done is for nothing. Lastly, I want to speak about celebrating your success. Not only the big goal, the big achievement of you getting where you want to be, so running that half marathon, but all the little steps that it takes to get there. So as much as you want to make the habit attractive every day, make some little milestones in between. So once you get to the 10K, once you get to the 15K, once you get to the 18K, or whatever it is, however you choose to set it out, make sure you think about little milestones in between you achieving your goal. I know it sounds kind of childish, but it is so valuable, because that's just what helps us. It helps to keep us motivated, and it also helps you to find enjoyment, to find novelty in what you're doing. So make sure that you think of ways to celebrate the little milestones, and then think of a way to celebrate that big achievement. Just make sure that you are your own biggest supporter in this journey to achieving your goal. Also, by setting these little milestones or that big celebration, you're making your goal time bound. By setting milestones by this and this date and the eventual celebration by this and this date, it helps you know that by this time ideally I'd be here, and by this time ideally I would have achieved my goal. So it's really important because it does add a sense of urgency and it does add a sense of accountability. And other ways to do this is by getting a coach who can definitely keep you accountable, by telling somebody that you trust, and they might check up on you. Once you make it known to somebody other than yourself, it is a lot of inspiration, I guarantee you that. But yeah, making these little milestones or celebrations not only are good for you and will add some enjoyment to the process, but it also is a way of bringing some sort of time measurement to the whole thing. So, thank you so much for watching. Today we looked at the importance of goals and goal setting, why even have them. Hopefully you understand the importance of them. We looked at assessing where you're currently at and looking at your own habits and how they can support you or hinder you. It's really your choice. We looked at the importance of being connected to where you'd like to be, to what your end goal is. And we also just emphasized the idea of brainstorming ways to get from A to B and being resilient and adaptable in changing your strategies, making your goal measurable, and also making sure that you think about how you can celebrate the little wins and the eventual attainment of your overarching objectives. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this, and please leave any comments down below. If you really like this and you feel that you need something like this in your life, but maybe a little bit more support, please leave a comment down below, because I am a coach and I can give you some hands-on assistance with this kind of thing and be the accountability that you need to truly achieve your goals.